Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Look, we're going to talk Medicare for all today, but just before I came on air, I saw something that was very disconcerting on MSNBC that I want to play for you guys. It is very important, and first of all, I'm going to play it for you, and after I play it, what I'm going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about it beforehand. This is important, and one of the things that I like to make sure to do is not promote false narratives, right? I mean, there are things that are certain ways. People have certain beliefs, but by the same token, we also know one important thing, and that is numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie at all. So I want you to listen to what this woman had to say. And after you listen to what this woman had to say, I would love you to start telling me about your thoughts about what she had to say. Because, wait, I tell you what, we'll take that up on the other side after I play it. But here it goes. Here it goes.
If I'm any of the other candidates besides Biden, I look at a poll like this, and what I say to my supporters and to these Democratic primary voters is, look, all of us have a shot. Any of us could potentially beat the president. And the reports in the last couple of days, the president was having meetings with his political team and RNC officials scouting the 2020 potential field on the Democratic side. And they didn't just mention Joe Biden, they also talked about Kamala Harris, they also talked about Elizabeth Warren. So I think that all these candidates have an argument to go to these voters and say, any of us can beat Trump. You should vote based on who you're most passionate about, who you agree with most on the issues.
Brian, it's interesting you say all of us have a shot, but Rena, you're a Republican strategist, so if you're inside the Trump campaign or even the RNC, should those numbers faze you, or do you just kind of hope that Trump does what Trump has shown he can do, which is defy electoral gravity?
Well, if you're at the RNC right now, you're thinking everything's going to be just fine. There's nobody to worry about. And I think, to Brian's point, look, yes, this is a huge field. All these people think they have a chance, but the reality is there are only two people here who have a real strong chance at taking down Trump. And I'll tell you, that's Biden and that's Sanders. And you have to count out Warren and Harris in this because, look, Trump is going to eviscerate a woman. And it pains me to say that as a woman.
What do you mean he'll eviscerate a woman? You mean at the polls or verbally?
Oh, he's going to do it on the trail. He's going to do it right up until they get to Election Day.
What do you mean eviscerate them?
He is going to find a way to go for the jugular, and it's going to be very tough for Harris or Warren, who are leading the pack in the polls, to fight back in a way in which they win the favor of voters who are upset with Trump and who could potentially cross over. So I really think it's going to be very difficult because what's going to happen is that Warren's going to come off angry, even though she's very substantive on policy, and Kamala Harris is going to come off as playing a race card. That is what the Republicans are going to do to these women. And I think, frankly, we should look at it for what it is. Joe Biden's leading the pack. We know the polls didn't tell us everything in 2016, but I think it remains a white man, an older white man, having the best chance at taking down the older white man that occupies the Oval Office. I hate to make it about color, but the reality is when you strip away those demographics, that's what it comes down to.
But I also just want to be clear on what you're saying. You're saying he will treat a woman and a woman of color differently than he will attack and treat the other candidates.
No doubt. We saw it this past week. We got the best evidence. He's going to get really, really ugly in a way in which he can't with Joe Biden, in a way in which he can't with Sanders. When you add the layer of gender, the American public views women very differently. Their response as to how men attack them on political campaign trails very differently, and we are not going to have that change in a year's time.
Okay. Let's unpack that a bit. In other words, what she is saying is Donald Trump, who has run before, any woman that he runs against, he'll eviscerate them because they are women, and that is what Donald Trump does to women. I want to remind all of you, I mean, the thing about it in America, and the thing that I think we have to understand about America is we don't really have in the electoral system a democracy that works all the time. When we have an electoral college, that is what gave Donald Trump the win. So let's just look at the numbers. This woman is saying it takes an old white man to beat Donald Trump. So therefore, women need not apply. The reality is Donald Trump was already beaten, and Donald Trump was beaten by a woman. And it's not only that Donald Trump was beaten by a woman by 3 million votes. That woman would have taken the electoral college if that woman had decided to campaign the way that these other women are campaigning, mean going into every nat and cranny in this country. If Hillary Clinton had gone into Michigan more forcefully, if Hillary Clinton had gone into Wisconsin more forcefully, if Hillary Clinton had gone into Pennsylvania more forcefully, Hillary Clinton would have been president of the United States. So what this woman is saying and putting that into the psyche of people right now is dangerous because, again, we had a woman who won a popular vote by several million. So therefore, a woman won. The only delta here, first of all, we know that white women did not vote majority for Hillary Clinton. We know that didn't happen. Let's even assume that that remains the same again, which I think it's unlikely given what the president is doing currently. I think even white women who normally have that sort of a vote for the Republican Party, I think even now they can see the disaster that Donald Trump is for them. But let's say that vote stays the same. We forget the 6 million drop-off from all the other voters. We forget that black voters didn't vote in Michigan as they should have. We forget the same applies to Pennsylvania. We forget the same applies in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin. And that amounted to much more than the 80,000 votes that gave Donald Trump an electoral college win. So here's the deal. If all these polls are showing all these Democrats ahead, rest assured that Donald Trump is in trouble. Now, here's my caveat. I still think, based on what a lot of the Democratic establishment is doing right now, that Donald Trump has a good chance of winning because we are not, ultimately, I don't feel like we are leaning into the things that we need to lean into. As Tim Wise would say, we have to lean into Donald Trump's racism to show it as an existential problem to ensure that the black vote comes out for Donald Trump, that the Latino vote comes out for Donald Trump, that the women in the aggregate vote comes out for Donald Trump. I don't think we're doing enough for the young people that who are, generally speaking, not responsible voters, but those that are tethered to bills, those that are tethered to college debt, those that are tethered to an employment scenario where they will be worse off than their families. The case isn't being made enough, in my opinion. I think they're allowing the scare factor that the things that are being preached by the squad, Ayanna Presley, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and all the others, meaning Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, they're making people think that the policies they care about, the policies they are going for, is something to be feared. It is not something to be feared, but it is something that young people do want. It is something that would excite young people to vote. I hang with quite a few young people, and the thing behind their vote now is that they want to have a reason to vote. Otherwise, it is like, look, we're screwed already. Why give these guys why get out there if they're doing nothing for us? So folks, don't fall for the trap. That what that woman did there. What that woman did there, I think it's likely, I want to say that it's likely a tactic by the Republican Party. Unfortunately, I do not think it's a tactic. I think she, in that case, she actually believes what she's saying. I have a caller on 708. Come on in, 708. You're hot.
My name is Shirley. I'm a 50-year-old white transvestite.
Say that again, sir. I'm sorry. Repeat yourself. What is your name?
And I'm pink titty. And I love BBC. I love to suck.
Say that again. Hello?
Black jock bottom, laying back, finger in my hole, thinking about that big.
Okay. I guess we had one of those crazy calls. But anyhow, let's get back to the subject at hand. Here is the deal, folks. As it turns out, I think this particular Republican strategist believes what she is saying. I think she believes what she is saying. It's hard to believe that an intelligent young woman would say what she said, but she did. Now, that said, I think it is imperative. I think it is important that going forward we understand one thing. We need to stop talking about the issues as if a woman hadn't already won in America. A woman has already won the vote in America. A woman that isn't not necessarily liked by many has won in America. And that woman and these other two women are much more likable than the woman who won the popular vote by 3 million folks and just didn't win the electoral college. 973, come on in, 973.
Porto!
Háblame. Come on in, Johnny. Talk to me.
Well, first I'd like to say, with all due respect to what you're saying, there might be some credence to it, only from the standpoint that Biden delivered Pennsylvania, he gives you Michigan, he gives you Wisconsin. And so when you're looking at the electoral map, look, a lot of this stuff comes down to that. And I might not be the biggest Biden supporter, but the fact of the matter is that them black folk in South Carolina are.
And let me stop you for a second. Let me do one thing with you, John, Johnny, and then I bring you back in. I want to just say one thing I want to go to 2016 before we go to 2020. 2016, I want you to remember that in as much that Hillary won 20 million votes as a woman that was not very well liked. As well, she lost Michigan by less than 20,000 votes, which is much less than the black folk who didn't show up that would have showed up if they were pressed to show up back in Michigan. The same applies to Wisconsin, specifically Milwaukee, as well as Pennsylvania. So I just want, in the psyche of people, and then I'm going to bring you right back in, Johnny. In the psyche of people, I want folks to understand that Hillary won, and had she played a smarter she had better campaign workers, she would have also won in Pennsylvania. Go ahead now, Johnny.
See, and now you're going to make me talk crazy conspiracy theories, and I don't want to do that.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me just walk with me on this for a second.
Sure.
I honestly think that the way this whole thing went down, I feel like there's some type of subterfuge at stake here. And I don't mean for Donald Trump. I mean, I feel like they said to Hillary, let this guy win so we can take down him and Putin. And when I say that, it sounds like paranoia on my part, like I'm some kind of maniac. Obviously, I'm not. But here's the thing. At the meeting with Mueller, at the testimony at Mueller admitted that they have an ongoing counterintelligence thing going on right now. And of course, that alone is not enough. But then you see Nancy Pelosi kind of slow walking this impeachment process, almost as if they know that this is going to mess up this counterintelligence thing they have going on. So I'm not saying this is actually happening, but I'm saying there's enough legitimate clues out there to say this actually could be happening. And
Well-
because you're right, we've already proven, the American people have proven they will vote for a woman.
Exactly.
And that Hillary did win.
Right.
So I agree with you, and I don't like how the national media is trying to frame things a certain way. Because, of course, this is good for their ratings.
Right.
But I will tell you, in all honesty, this is a three-horse race. And the three horses are Biden, Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren.
I think so too.
And
That's
like
how I have it.
Kamala Harris,
Yeah.
but she's not going to get it. She's not there. She's not there.
Yeah, I think
This is a
enough
three-horse
people.
race.
I think enough people have issues with Kamala in California that's going to create a problem for her in the long run. But I think you're absolutely
but
right.
but
I went to
I will
see
give her
Elizabeth
points,
Warren
though.
twice here in Houston. Elizabeth Warren,
And she's excellent.
she's been visiting Houston quite often. I interviewed her here in Houston, but before that, the first time I saw her was when she came to speak to the She something. I don't remember what it's called, but it was a thing with women of color, and she came here. And one would have thought, well, Kamala Harris would have come in here, and maybe she would have sort of had some sort of connection with the group. Nope. It was Elizabeth Warren who had a visceral connection with that audience, and she left out walking with everybody just loving her. And then I went to see her and she came with the teachers again, and I saw people crowded like sardines in a room, 3,000 people in a room with an overflow with another 1,000 or so people out there, and these people just loved her with a passion. And so I think you're right. As far as a three-horse race is what you said, yeah.
But I would just simply say this. It's funny because we're seeing how there's a lot of recalibrating going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And behind the scenes, these three horses are really recalibrating because they have to make some adjustments.
Right.
Because none of them have put together the right package yet. The one that's closest to it in my mind is Miss Warren, Senator Warren.
I think so too. I think so too, Johnny. Let me tell you, Tim Wise did say something that I think she needs to work on right now. And Tim Wise, who is a racial justice activist, said that a policy is not going to bring out that visceral feeling in people to know that Trump is an existential failure, an existential problem, and as such, I think that is where she needs to recalibrate, and that is to start off with him being an existential problem racially and otherwise, and then talk about how she will be different and the policies that she comes out with.
And the problem with Elizabeth Warren is she doesn't quite understand that she needs to actually, yes, it's nice to have, she reminds me of like an old teacher that had perfect manners.
Right.
Every once in a while, you need to get away from the manners and just plain spoken call Trump what he is.
I think she'll
call him a SOB.
Right.
And you know what I mean? And in the right situation, it would be so powerful for her because that's not really her character.
I think she's going to get there. I think she's just right now playing ball, and I think a lot of these people don't want
Kamala Harris has that ability to point the finger and say, you SOB, how dare you?
Right.
And I feel like that kind of indignity and outrage, I feel like Elizabeth Warren doesn't seem to be able to summon it.
I have a feeling.
You know what I mean?
I have a feeling that Elizabeth Warren is going to get there. I think Elizabeth Warren is doing a whole lot of testing right now to see what goes over well, because somebody told me something that I didn't quite realize, and that was the motions of her hands that she used in the past. And this person said, you notice she's not doing that anymore. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
That's true.
Really? Okay.
That's true.
So I think people are listening, and they're listening to a whole lot of people all over the country say certain things, and they're calibrating.
This is going to sound ridiculous, okay? So I'm going to go micro here.
Okay.
But when you posted videos of Elizabeth Warren, the first thing that I said was I didn't like what she was wearing. The outfit that she wore looked like she was going to a flea market.
Johnny.
And I'm telling you right now, Berto, this is actually going to be an issue for her, because if she comes out in pantsuits, that might not go over well.
Right.
If she comes out in dress suits, it might not go over well. I feel like she hasn't mastered her look yet.
And that's probably true.
To be elegant?
That's probably true. The only thing I hate saying that, you are saying that, right? Let me be very...
It's not fair.
I'll be frank with you. I never, but then again, that's how I am. I've never looked at her close. I've always been focused on what she's saying, and that is not that it's it. No, but here's the deal. I have to be more than that, right? Because that I am focused on what she's saying, but the rest of America are focused on a whole lot of other things. So I need to actually sometimes be more cognizant of that.
Berto,
yeah.
Because the reason why I'm saying that, Berto, is because when you walk into my office, when I'm assessing you in the first 3 minutes,
right,
I'm taking the entire picture.
Exactly.
I'm looking at your shoes. I'm looking at your outfit. I'm looking at your hands.
Right.
I'm taking everything in. And I'm not trying to be like really, this sounds awful coming from a man judging a woman. But what I am saying is that she has to figure out who she's presenting herself as.
Right.
An elegant, regal, well-educated woman or a woman from the streets.
Right.
I don't think you can do both. I think it's very tricky to try to do both. And I will tell you, this sounds really awful. I think one of the things that hurt Hillary was the fact that people were hard on her about her look.
Yeah. Well,
and I think it's terrible that we do that in this country, but I think that's part of it. And like I said, you have these two old geezers in Biden and Sanders, both, like all of a sudden, Biden's being painted as an old-time racist. You got Bernie being painted as just old and cranky. And it's just a frustrating situation. But, Berto, obviously, I feel like it doesn't even matter at this point because this is so bad. This is just so bad for our country that any one of those three is going to smash him.
And I think in the long run, if we do our job, we'll get it. The thing about I think the real fight, Johnny, is getting the right Democrat, and I think that means the fight is between progressives and the establishment because the establishment wants a certain.
See, I'm up here.
Yeah.
I'm up here in the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I can't see is who would do the best in Texas. Because if we can make a run at Texas, there's no way Trump wins.
Let me tell you, I'm in Texas.
So in my mind,
I'm in Texas, and let me tell you what I think. I think with the activists on the ground right now, that Texas is really in play with progressive. Remember, the test that I'm using? I'm using Beto O'Rourke as a test. Beto O'Rourke, as he campaigned for senator, he didn't get less progressive. He got more progressive as he campaigned.
Yes.
And he came within 2 points. So my contention is progressives, if they make that case and show, because Texas is poor. I mean, it has a whole lot of rich people, but then if you take a look at how the average Texan lives, we are the worst state as far as health care. We are the worst state in a lot of these issues, in wages, all that kind of stuff. And I think we can, in education, there are a lot of things that we can actually put out there from a progressive standpoint to say we are going to make that better. Johnny, I got to play a video that's about 17 minutes long that I got to go, sir.
You. Okay.
It was a pleasure having you as usual, my brother.
Have a great weekend. Take care, brother.
You too, sir. Okay, folks, like I said, today we're going to be talking about Medicare for all. When I was at Netroots a week or so ago, I interviewed Dr. America. Dr. America, his real name, you know what? His real name is, let's see, Kathleen Sullivan says, hi, Kathleen. And then Daniel says, the progressive strategy for 2020 is to scare black folks. Racism, they scream. So just who is using fear? No, it's healthcare. Kathleen is right. But then again, Kathleen is always right. She understands politics more so than you, my dear friend Lado. Okay, so anyhow, at Netroots, I spoke to Dr. I want to make sure and say his name right. His name is Sanjeev K. Sriram. He is the guy who was on stage with Bernie Sanders when he released his Medicare for All bill, and then I think he was on with Pramila Jayapal as well when she did the 1384 bill. Anyhow, I sat with Dr. America Sanjeev K. Sriram for a long talk on Medicare for All. He was on stage with Senator Bernie Sanders and subsequently observed the release of Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal as she released H.R. 1384, the Medicare for All bill. He explains in detail why every American must be on the front lines. Every American must be on the front lines of Medicare for All. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let you listen to that. I think it is a great piece from the doctor. Here we go. Welcome back to Politics Done Right. Politics Done Right made a promise. We were going to be talking Medicare for All ad nauseum. And the reason why is because there are those opposers out there who are opposing it for reasons other than your health, for reasons other than what is best for you. Yep. So today I'm with Dr. America. And by the way, Dr. America was that guy that you saw on stage with Bernie Sanders and I think with Jayapal as well for the Medicare for All bill. His name is Sanjeev K. Sriram. He's a medical doctor. He knows what he's talking about. And I think today we are going to have a great talk. Please listen. Please share. This is existential. Your life depends on it. Dr. Sriram.
Good to be back.
I mean, it's great having you. It's great. It's been wonderful watching your tweets.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, because they are important. They were informative. There are times that I got it and I said, I guess I need to go do that now. So thank you for what you're doing for the movement.
Thank you.
Please explain to us again. Look, what we've learned is that repetition is important.
Yeah.
So what I'd like you to do, in short, is to first tell our audience what is Medicare for All.
Okay. So Medicare for All is a new way of paying for healthcare. It does not change what your doctor will be doing for you when you have an illness or when you want a checkup or when you need help. The healthcare that you're getting is going to stay the same because that's science, it's medicine, we go to school, we have training, we are going to follow those ethics and practice that science. What is going to change with Medicare for All is how we pay for the services and what we prioritize in our financing of healthcare. So right now when you go to the doctor, your doctor's office has a ton of fragmentation with their pay. You've got doctors who have to, contract with insurance companies, with Medicaid, with Medicare. They have to, figure out whether they're going to take cash payments from patients who are uninsured. And then every year, the insurance industry will change contracts. And the doctors will kind of have to look at those contracts again to decide, you know what, I can't work with this insurance company anymore. And that's how actually a lot of Americans end up losing the doctor that they really like. Right. It's not because of anything that the ACA did. It has nothing to do with what any politician did. It's that the insurance company keeps messing around with their relationships and contracts with doctors. And so doctors slip in and out of network. And so that's what is messing up a lot of what patients experience at the doctor's office. So what Medicare for All does is that it tells the doctors, focus on taking care of patients, not paperwork. Mm-hmm. We're going to pay you properly, on time, for the work that you do. You are not going to be wasting time haggling with the insurance industry to get paid for work that you have already done.
Right.
That's actually something that I keep repeating to my medical colleagues is that, for those who have hesitations about joining the Medicare for All movement, I tell them the average American doctor is losing 3 weeks of every year to fighting with insurance companies to get paid for work that they have already done.
Right.
That is 3 weeks that no patient is getting healthier. No doctor is making money off of that. The only person getting richer during those 3 weeks
the insurance executives.
Is the insurance executives. It has nothing to do with public health or making patients' lives better. And so that is what we have the opportunity to dismantle. And what physicians want to do with those 3 weeks, that's up to them. I'm not going to tell them what to do.
Right.
If they want to see more patients, great. If they want to do some, take some time to do some special skills training and education because there's always something new in science and medicine, do it. If they want to spend more time with their family and avoid burnout, do that. But there are so many different things that you can be doing as a doctor with 3 weeks that is better than fighting with the insurance company. And so that's what's in it for physicians when it comes to being in Medicare for All. For patients, right now, when a patient in America wants to figure out healthcare. Like, how am I going to go to the doctor?
Right.
They have to clear so many hurdles, right? Well, what do you make? Well, how much money do you earn? Where do you live? Because depending on what state you're in, your state may have expanded Medicaid or not expanded Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, your insurance decides what networks they're going to work with, city by city, state by state. And oftentimes they're going to ask, "Are you a citizen? Who do you look? What do you look like?" I mean, a lot of these questions, instead of just answering the person's question of, "Here's the address for your local doctor's office. Now let's help you figure out a way to get there."
Exactly.
That's what Medicare for All is going to be for us when we actually build this thing.
No, and there's no reason for that. I mean, they like to promote the word competition. The reason we want several insurance companies is we want competition. I think that's the worst argument, in that they're assuming that paying a bill is a product.
Right.
How do we dispel that notion that paying a bill isn't the product?
Right. I mean, and also let's also dispel the notion of competition, right? Because I mean, a lot of these insurance companies have, like, when I started medical school, there was maybe the top 12 insurance companies. That became like the top 10, then the top 8, and now we're down to 5 insurance companies because of mergers.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, these are huge corporations. They care about their dividends. They care about their shareholders. And they care about merging and increasing market power for profits. Nowhere in any of that does patients or healthcare actually fit into their priorities.
Again, the reality is, and please tell me, there's not, I mean, insurance companies, the only service that they provide really is to manage risk. And if you have one risk pool, there's no risk to manage, right?
Right. I mean, so what they're really also trying to do is that the way that an insurance company makes money is by denying you care. Right. Because they every month that you pay premiums, they want to hold on to every single one of those dollars. Right. And the moment you go to the doctor's office, now the insurance company has to pay the doctor's office. Right. So the more that they're able to deny,
the more they make.
That's
their method.
And so that, again, it has nothing to do with optimizing your health.
Right.
And left to these insurance companies, if the ACA is gone, and if everything that happened in the Fifth Court of Appeals and everything like that, they don't mind going back to the time where they can use your own body to discriminate against you. Right. Saying that, oh, you have cancer now, and that's really expensive.
Right.
But when you first applied for that insurance policy, you didn't tell us that you had acne when you were a teenager.
Right.
You were dishonest.
Right.
Acne is a pre-existing condition, and you failed to report that.
Right.
We're rescinding your entire policy, and now we don't have to pay for anything.
Anything whatsoever.
Now, that's what they used to do before the ACA. The ACA outlawed that. But the fact that was ever, a business model, the fact that was ever a protocol or practice, tells you that that patients have never been a priority in healthcare for them.
Now, we are deep into the election cycle.
Yeah.
It seems like Medicare for all the buzzwords on.
Yeah.
Does it really mean everything to every single candidate?
That's a good question, and what I'm looking for are the journalists who have taken the time to understand what the bill is.
Right.
Because when I saw that question asked in both debate nights about, do you support abolishing private insurance?
Right.
I felt that it was a very misguided question. Because that isn't the goal of Medicare for All.
Right.
The goal of Medicare for All is to make healthcare a basic human right.
Exactly.
And what we're abolishing are the false choices that millions of patients and families make.
Exactly.
There are millions of patients and families right now.
Right.
And I'm talking about the people with insurance. Over half of us who have employer-sponsored insurance have family members who are avoiding going to the doctor because they don't want to pay for the cost.
Right.
Isn't that the whole point of having insurance?
You wonder why it is that the message doesn't go over, and we know why. We get mixed messages from corporate, the Partnership for
America's Healthcare Future.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have psychologically well-designed ads like the Lucy, remember the
it's
the Lucy and Mary or Louise.
Yeah.
The old Louise commercials. I try to tell them, oh, you're going to lose your coverage, you're
Right.
going to lose this.
Right.
Now, what I really think we need is a lot of doctors in their white coats coming out of the weeds and saying we would be much more efficient without
Right.
these healthcare
Right.
the health insurance industry.
Right. I mean, it's 3 weeks of the year that we would be spending with our patients, that we would be becoming better at what we do.
Right. I think I asked you this question before, but why is it that more doctors we don't find supporting the
So, I mean,
medical
doctors are as vulnerable to the messaging of industry as
Right.
anybody else, right?
Right.
I mean, like,
Right.
doctors like to kid themselves that, oh, pharma doesn't, have an effect on, like, what I
Right.
prescribe, and the insurance industry doesn't have a grip on me. But then you turn around and look at, like, what are the top 10 most prescribed drugs in America?
It's the
the
one-
top 10 that are most marketed, right?
Sure.
So it's sort of like, I mean,
Correlation.
right? I mean, like, physicians are no different, or like they're not that much smarter than
Right,
the average
right.
American when it comes to handling how industry, deals with propaganda and all of that.
Right.
And so, as physicians, we have to really be honest with ourselves about those 3 weeks that we lose every year. That's money that is lost, $83,000 per physician practice.
Right, right.
So whenever people say that, oh, like, I can't survive on Medicare rates, what I tell them is that, like, right now the insurance industry has tricked you into thinking that they are paying you more.
Right.
But the moment you have to pick up the phone to haggle with them over getting paid, you're losing money.
Right.
And so your pay is being lost, and your time and effort is being lost on paperwork when it should be with patients.
Right.
Isn't that why we all went to medical school?
Yes, yeah.
And so these are the conversations that we have to be having as physicians. We have to be, like, reconnecting with what is it that made us want to do this work in the first place. And honestly, the future of the country really does depend on us creating a more sustainable healthcare system.
Exactly.
Because, I'm sure that that the majority of this country will be minority.
Yes, and pretty darn in the next 30 years or so.
It's actually much sooner than that. As a pediatrician, I can tell you that our child population, so babies under
Right.
age 1, became majority minority in 2011. That was the first year that
Really?
babies under age 1 became majority minority.
Wow.
Well, since the arrival of imperialism,
Right,
but
right,
like
right.
I mean, but
Yes.
but then, like, in the 2014-2015 school year was the first school year in public schools where minority students outnumbered white students.
I didn't know that.
Next year, 2020, is the first year that everybody under the age of 18 will come from a minority community.
Wow.
So we are rapidly becoming a majority minority country. It's
No
not
wo-
some distant milestone.
No
It's
wonder.
happening now.
No wonder Trump is freaking out.
Oh, of course, right? But the thing is that a lot of these kids, like, they are also dealing, like, not only are they dealing with racial inequality, they're dealing with income inequality.
Right.
The two are, like, so tightly
And
linked.
With that inequality also comes health inequality.
Right, because they can't afford any of what the
Exactly.
insurance company is charging them.
Exactly.
I have patients where they are graduating out of my practice.
Right.
I see people who
Till
are like
18,
about,
right?
well, actually till mid-college.
Okay.
Okay. And so they're in the middle of college, or looking at, like, their first job coming out.
Right.
And I have had patients say that I can't take a job in a southern state, even though it would be a great opportunity, because I need Medicaid coverage. And so they're going to go for, they're cutting themselves out of a potential really great job opportunity because they have to look after their health.
And many times these are the people who vote for those guys.
And the scary thing of it is that, if we don't tell the truth to ourselves,
Right.
this is going to become a healthcare system that really reflects apartheid.
Exactly.
Where if you are white and wealthy, you get to be healthy. And if you are not, then
You're not.
you are not just poor, but you are sick and poor.
Right. Well, let me ask you, what do you think about Jayapal's bill, Representative Jayapal's
I'm
bill?
a strong supporter of Congresswoman Jayapal's bill.
And how do you think it compared to what was formerly HR 676, which is now something else?
So I think that actually it added a lot of meat to those bones.
So you think of what it is it actually defined these different things as far as it's concerned?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I would
Excellent.
say that the ACA, I mean, like where the ACA was at this point 10
Right.
years ago,
Right.
and where Medicare for All is now. Like Medicare for All in HR 1384, Congresswoman Jayapal's bill, it is a far more robust bill
Excellent.
than what the ACA was like at this point in time 10 years ago.
It's interesting because they were concerned that because a lot of it was written sort of out of sight, that it would have been problematic, but it looks like it turned out much better than people thought it was going to be.
You know, the whole thing about it being written out of sight, I felt that they were inviting people to come and meet with them so that they could hear them honestly.
Right, okay.
And so they, you know, and the thing is, like, a lot of people who are vulnerable
right.
are, they can speak their truth more freely if they're not, if they are free of the worry of, am I going to get blasted in public for speaking about the truth of my vulnerability.
Right.
And I feel like the bill right now, it reflects a lot of listening that has happened from one community after another after another. Like the disability community did a powerful job of making sure that there are provisions that allow our brothers and sisters with disabilities to get services at home in their communities and not be institutionalized. And that's in the Medicare for All bill.
Did I hear that we're one vote away?
So we are
Democratic vote away?
We are one Democratic vote away from having half of all the Democrats in the House co-sponsoring Medicare for All.
When that occurs.
And when that occurs, it'll be a lot harder for the House leadership to deny hearings, to eventually bring this bill to the floor of the House for a vote. Because what I love telling people is that we want to move the Medicare for All curious to Medicare for All committed.
Exactly. I had two Medicare for Guys from the Nurses Union come and talk about that. Now, in closing, give me a direction.
Yeah, so August recess, okay? So Congress takes a recess in August, and they go back home to their districts and states where they have town hall meetings, and they meet with their constituents. It is a great time to talk to them about Medicare for All. If your representative is already a supporter, great. But remind them that this is a racial justice issue. 59% of America's uninsured are minorities. And so we need Medicare for All as a racial justice initiative just as much as we need it for
social justice, health justice.
Right. And so, it builds a sense of urgency in a supporter to to help them reaffirm their allegiance to Medicare for All. For those who are, like I was saying before, curious but not yet committed, it's a great time to meet with them and talk about, well, what do the current uninsured look like in your community? Bring those stories, talk about that vulnerability, that pain, and what Medicare for All can do. And for those who are opposed, let them know that, 2020 is an election year.
Right.
Time is ticking.
And that we'll take care of them then.
That's right.
Dr. Sriram, did I say that right?
That's right.
Thank you so kindly, Dr. America, for being with us.
Absolutely, thank you.
And by next year, we hope to meet where we're going to be even more positive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, then we're going to be talking about how we're going to fight the Senate to get this thing passed there.
Exactly. Thank you so kindly for being with me. All right, that was Dr. Sriram. And I got it right now, Dr. Sriram, who is also known as Dr. America. And subsequently, or in a few more weeks, I'll be carrying Dr. America's podcast. He used to have a podcast that he did regularly, but when you start to have kids and that sort of stuff, what happens? You lose some time and you're not able to be as active as you would like to be. So he is, but he'll be back. But anyhow, I want to address a few things that I see in the notes here, specifically from Lee Grant. Lee, welcome aboard, my friend. You pointed out the following. Well, there are two things. I'll take the one about ADOS last. Let me take the one about where you say, the doc points out inefficiencies in the system, but all we need to do is wave a magic wand called Medicare for All, and every problem will be solved. No. And again, that is how they would like to advertise it to you. They would like to advertise to you that Medicare for all is some pie in the sky thing, something that really has no possibilities, something that is inefficient, something that costs too much. All of those things are false. In fact, now I see Mike CSEC says Medicare for all would bankrupt our country and cause even more healthcare providers to leave the field. He also says primary care doctors are moving toward a cash-only business model that is much better and cheaper than people. Lee Grant, and then of course that's when Lee Grant points out the others. My friends, those are all false statements, okay? And the thing that concerns me is that many times I ask folks to open their minds and stop being tunnel visioned into what a plutocracy that is shafting you is trying to keep you believing. The reason they invest the amount of money they invest in lying to you is because it is profitable to them. Let's first ask you to accept math. Math is rather simple. Let's first talk about inefficiencies. The truth of the matter here is, for Medicare for all to be more inefficient than a private system, it would have to have north of a 30% inefficiency rate, which don't let anybody fool you. They tell you, oh, the Medicare, it costs private sector 20% of your premiums go into administration. It's more than that. But for Medicare, for regular standard Medicare as it stands today, it's only 3%. For Medicare for all, it would likely be less. And let's explain a few things here, folks. They're asking you to deny math, right? Somehow, the plutocracy would like you to believe that having a third party pay for your health insurance can somehow be more efficient when every health insurance company has its own president, its own vice president, its own CEOs, its own several databases, its own advertising, all of those millions, billions of dollars that they must invest in those things. They want you to believe. They want you to believe that if you have one entity paying that bill, that somehow, that is more inefficient than having a whole hundreds of executives that are making millions of dollars, than having thousands of shareholders that have to make a profit off of your payment to them. Because remember, every insurance company that makes a profit, every insurance company that pays high amounts of monies to executives, that isn't money that's coming out of air or that is magic. That is payment from your premium. So all these executives that tell you what their job is to manage risk. If you have one pool, there's no risk to manage. Manage risk is a capitalist way of saying what we do is we try to keep the people that cost us a whole lot of money out of the system. That is how you manage risk. Manage risk says we try to not pay the bill that it will cost for your insurance. Manage risk means that we are not going to give you the best medication that you want. Manage risk means all those things. It means forget about humanity. You know, this is one of the rare occasions, right, where single payer means two things. It means more efficiency and better service. And we don't have to ask the question anymore whether we can prove it, because the proof is in the pudding all over the world and in our own Medicare system. Now, they're trying to privatize Medicare as it stands right now with something called Medicare Advantage. These are all lies, okay? I got a call on 573. Come on in, 573.
Hey, Berto, it's Mike.
Come on in. Talk to me, Mike.
Hey, hopefully I'm getting good signal here.
First of all, can you tell me what you disagree
got
with
a
me
little problem. Well, on this efficiency thing, for one, it's not. it's not about efficiencies or whatever. If you're trying to fix a problem, which is the increasing costs every single year of the healthcare industry.
True.
Okay, you have to attack the cause, not the symptoms.
True.
Whenever you have a problem, you have to find the cause. Okay. The video that you showed, the guy was talking about symptoms.
Right.
He wasn't talking about causes. Okay. And he was saying that Medicare for All would fix all the symptoms.
True, and I agree.
But it doesn't fix the causes.
And
That's the problem.
Can I go ahead and stop you for 1 second there? Because I want to agree with you, first of all, that what has to be fixed is the cause, right? But you're right. You're absolutely right, Mike. Let me tell you, however, why. Go ahead. It seems like you want to bug in, so go ahead.
Well, you have to identify the cause.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so the cause, whenever anything increases, as far as price-wise, you have supply, demand.
Yes.
Basically, it's simple, economics. Okay. Supply are the healthcare providers. Demand are the customers and whatnot. Okay. When you pool people together and share a certain amount of money that they pool together, that increases their purchasing power.
Yes.
Which increases demand.
Yes.
On the supply.
Okay.
Which means increasing the prices.
Not necessarily, but go ahead. I want you to make your point.
Yes, actually it does. It's just economics. It's just math. So once you go to a Medicare for All, you have a super pot. And you have super inflation on healthcare. This happened when Medicare was put through in 65 or 66. There was massive inflation, okay, as far as the healthcare sector. And it would happen again if Medicare for All and so on. So the only thing that government can do is to restrict the payments to the providers as far as how much they pay. This is why Medicare currently only pays about 40% less than private insurance, okay, and then denies more than private insurance does. So so that's really the problem. And
well, let me correct what you're saying now, Mike.
No competition.
Mike, I get your point, and that is something that the Partnership for America's Healthcare wants you to believe as well. Let me tell you what the facts really are. Okay, and here are the facts.
I'm just quoting Econ 101.
I got you. I understand. And you know what? If you're going to quote Econ 101, I'm going to quote that Econ 101 is man-made as much as anything else. And remember what I always talk about. I want a bifurcated economy, one that behaves in a capitalist society, and the other. Well, I don't like to use the word capitalist. One that behaves in the free enterprise society, and one that behaves in the socialized society, meaning the public sector. And here's what I'm talking about, Mike. One, you talk about healthcare inflation. You're absolutely right. The causes we differ on. Let's go with drugs first of all. Drugs are developed by universities who get stipends from the... Let me finish. Okay. Drugs are developed by universities who get stipends from the federal government to turn them into viable products. After they are turned into things that seem... Let me finish. After they're turned into something that looks like it could be successful, it gets turned over to the corporatocracy. The corporatocracy, forgetting who the major investors were, we the people, they further take it into the form of a product, sell it at inflated prices, and suck it to us. So a lot of our increased medical costs are drugs. Let's give a classic example that I gave with insulin and price and power. Insulin is not a drug that is under patent at all. Insulin was developed to be given away, but still yet we have a couple of drug companies who have found a way to sell insulin in such a manner that it is breaking the bank, because we know we're an insulin-dependent country.
There's over 20 different patented insulin designs.
I understand.
There's different.
What I'm saying, sir, is insulin, the drug, needs no patent. And the sole purpose of creating patents for insulin dispensers or whatever is to be able to capitalize on a drug that we can always serve in a standard fashion that doesn't need any patentable pieces. All we need to do is give people a darn insulin that costs pennies and they would be fine. That's all we need to do. Secondly, and we can go from drug to drug to drug that we the people developed.
Yeah.
People developed. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll send you an article that basically shows that you're all wrong. But anyway.
You please do, but you can't.
Before you run out of time.
Yes.
Let me just kind of wrap this up before you run out of time, because you got a couple minutes left. There are healthcare businesses that have actually gotten better and cheaper instead of gone up in price and so on. Okay, and those services are cash only, and they aren't heavily regulated by the government. You got LASIK eye surgery, which is all cash. You got more doctors coming in, and you also have elective plastic surgery, which is the exact same situation. It's a cash business where you got more and more doctors always going in to fill the need. So it's kind of weird that those things would get cheaper and better as time goes on when everything else is getting more expensive.
And like I said, it's by design, and we know why.
That's another econ.
We know why. And like I'm saying before you go, CSAC, is the following. We need to have strict controls on everything related to medical care. This stuff about everything being in the market is a fallacy. Healthcare does not. For LASIK and all of that, hey, fine, put that in the private sector. But most of healthcare belongs in a socialized sector, not in the private sector. And the reason why is if there is a profit motive there, profit is what we could have done to provide even more care, period. But we'll talk about this some other time. Thank you so kindly for calling, Mike.
You know how you regulate the economy. It's people. When people do services, they develop a reputation, right?
Sir?
If they have a good reputation, they get people tell other people and so on. They get more.
And that works in. You're right. That works for making a car. That works for making, but it doesn't work for healthcare because we don't have that. We cannot sit down and be concerned about who is good or who is bad. We have to have all doctors trained. We have to have all these things there.
Sure.
Because we can't sit down and say, well, let's shop around to see who can cut me better. That doesn't work that way. Thank you so kindly, CSAC. I got to go.
All right.
Take care, brother.
Thanks.
Have a good one. Okay, folks, before I go, I want to tell you guys that this is a show that needs your support. We warrant your support, so you know the good work that we do. Please go ahead and support us by going to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Again, that is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. It is essential that we get more subscribers. We need copywriters. We need producers. Right now, it falls on one hand, and it's tiring. But folks, so please give us support. Patreon.com/politicsdoneright. You can also go ahead and get our cups, please. The Politics Done Right cups, you can get that at store.politicsdoneright.com. That is store.politicsdoneright.com. You can give a one-time or many-time contribution at politicsdoneright.com/donate. That is politicsdoneright.com/donate. But what I really would love to have is a hell of a lot more subscribers. We need hundreds more. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Right there under the screen, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Thank you so kindly for your support. We are at the end of the program. You know how we end this program. We say, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3.